I'm fond of reminding myself that Dr. Dale Tuggy, who himself is a professing Unitarian Christian, right? So he's not Trinitarian, but as far as I can tell, he's a genuine believer and he's Spirit-filled. So I really appreciate his teachings, even though I'm in disagreement over his view on Trinity. But his podcast, one of their catchphrases or bumper sticker slogans, as it were, is, "Do you love God enough to think about him?" And I like the idea. It's kind of a philosophical statement. And indeed, Dr. Dale Tuggy is a analytic theologian, right? More philosophical than he is theological, more philosophical and analytical than he is, say, pastoral or anything like that. A little bit too theological and analytical for most people. But nevertheless, when he asks people, do you love God enough to think about him, what he's trying to remind us is that God commands us to love him with all of our heart, with all of our soul, and with all of our might in the Hebrew. But the Greek adds one more. It says with all of our mind. So the idea that God should be thought about. Let's engage in thinking about God, right, from the ontological perspective of who God is and what God is, as well as from the economic perspective of how he interacts with his creation, right? Both of those are important for us to think about. And when we say think, it means it's okay to engage in hashkafa in the Hebrew, or philosophy, from time to time. So don't be too harsh. Philosophy and theology are not enemies of one another. So what I say in my commentary is that what I sought to do is to wish to make Protestant evangelical Christians aware of the theological attraction that Latter-day Saints pneumatology, which is a study on the Holy Spirit, what their particular take on the Holy Spirit might present to unsuspecting Christians seeking acceptance and fellowship from a wider circle of Christian quote-unquote groups that they might encounter on an everyday basis. So when you're out and about and you meet other people who say that they are Christian, you meet people from any number of denominational backgrounds. And in that respect, Latter-day Saints, along with Jehovah's Witnesses, are simply another denomination of Christianity. But most of us in Protestant evangelical circles have been taught that there are some denominational forms of Christianity that tip the limit on what is known as orthodoxy and fall into the category of either heresy or cult. And last time I checked, Jehovah's Witnesses and Mormonism, Latter-day Saints, fall into that category of cult and non-Christian, or we could say quasi-Christian, or something to that effect. Now, of course, I know those terms are pejorative, and the Jehovah's Witnesses and the Latter-day Saints wouldn't take too well to being called cults. They are aware of the fact that they wear that label and that stigma, but they're seeking to erase that. And so I think part of their effort is seen in the fact that when we look at their theology, they're trying to make their theology as palatable and as acceptable as online with mainstream Christian Orthodox theology, so as to say, look, we're no different than what you guys say, and look, here's what we believe. It's biblically based. It's scripturally rooted, and so why are you rejecting us? Let's fellowship together. In fact, why don't you come and join our church, and down that path you go. And so I'm here to tell you, be careful, be aware, be forewarned. Their theology is not the same as mainstream Protestant evangelical or even Catholic or Orthodox theology, right? Their views of Trinity are grossly skewed, biblically inaccurate, scripturally unsound, and I reject their view of Trinity. They have a model that I reject, that I think is unbiblical, and so you wouldn't know it unless you read through their information, or you just took the word of your own pastor who told you, hey, steer clear of those guys. They come knocking on your door, just politely turn them away. Well, yeah, sometimes that's what you have to do. So my goal was not to kind of look down on them too harshly, but just to recognize that, hey, the theology that they are presenting, as well-meaning as it may come across, and as innocent as it may look, and as close to biblically accurate as it may come across, it's not, right?